Hey, what's up, guys? I am in Louisville, Kentucky. I just got here. I'm going to speak tomorrow at the Diverse Entrepreneurship Summit down at the Speed Art Museum. Dr Boyce if you happen to be here. Anyway, I was looking at, I was reading an article about Antonio Brown. As you guys know, I've been kind of intrigued by this because here you have a situation involving a black man that's, pretty much international news, and people are wondering if he's going to be taken off the football field or not, given his recent, so-called rape allegations, civil suit, all these other things. The lady's saying that he raped her, but again, it was just kind of weird that there was a civil suit filed and not a criminal complaint. Which I think actually the fact that there were no criminal complaints filed is what's kept Antonio on the field. I thought they were going to use the commissioner's exempt list and take him off the field. For some reason, Roger Goodell isn't going to do that, which is surprising. But when I read the analysis, basically the conclusion is that because it was not a criminal issue, that played a big part in this. However, there have been players who were not facing criminal charges who've been put on the commissioner's exempt list and taken off the field. So I still don't understand it completely. But at the same time, it is what it is. I do believe innocent till proven guilty, and I think that should apply. Hey, Vanessa. Hey, Rock. What's going on? Feel free to shout out your city, the city you're from. Okay, so here's the deal. All right, so I was reading an interview they did with Antonio Brown's former stepfather. Right, his name was Moss. I think Larry Moss. It's funny his stepfather's last name was Moss, given that he's compared often to Randy Moss, which I don't know if that's an accurate comparison because I don't think Randy Moss ever got this out of pocket. But then again, though, you can make the comparison in that they were both, once in a lifetime talents, and they both had some, off the field issues. So anyway, Larry Moss, Antonio Brown's stepfather, he basically said, none of this surprises me. He said this kid's been out of control since he was about 12 years old. He's always felt that he could have whatever he wanted and do whatever he wanted. And that, we got into a lot of altercations, that they got into a lot of like fist fights and stuff like that. Now, in Antonio's defense, Antonio says, actually Antonio's little brother says that his stepfather, would get into physical fights with his mother. So it sounds like a real dysfunctional kind of household. But here's what's fascinating, right? When I read that first line where his stepfather said, "I'm not surprised that this happened," a couple of things went off in my head. I said, I wonder if they got into physical fights, and I wonder if he's divorced from the mother. And I kid you not, so he literally said that he divorced the mother, and a big reason for the divorce was Antonio. He said Antonio was a big part of the reason that we're not together anymore. And also that when Antonio got to a certain age, their mother put Antonio and his little brother out of the house because she wanted, her son said it was because she needed a man to help her pay the bills. Maybe it's because she just wanted peace in the house or whatever, right? But it was just like the movie Baby Boy. If you recall in the movie Baby Boy, that's what all that was about, was the natural conflict that will occur between your teenage son. If your teenage son is a hyper-masculine male and you have a man that you bring into the house, especially if if you meet your son after a certain age, say after the age of 10 or 11, it's going to be it could be a problem because men tend to be territorial. If you watch the movie Baby Boy, there's a lot of territorial, animalistic kinds of scenes in that film where basically it was all about like, nigga, why are you standing in your drawers in my kitchen drinking the Kool-Aid? You drank up all the Kool-Aid? You know what I mean? Like that type of situation. And most men understand this. And I think it's important for women who have sons to really understand how these dynamics work and to realize that if you have a son that is out of control and you bring a man into the house who's a real man, you begging for a conflict. There's going to be a fight. It's going to be a situation because one of those men is going to dominate the other man. And the problem is that a lot of sons that grow up without a father in the house, they think they run the place. They think that, it's their house. They can do what they want. They can sit on the couch and hold their nuts while they're sitting on the couch, and hold the remote control or whatever. And it ends up becoming a problem. If you got another man in that same space, it's like two gorillas, like literally fighting over the same piece of land. It just becomes a mess. And if you saw in the movie Baby Boy, what happened? You had the two males, two adult males in the same space. They ended up in a physical conflict. One ultimately ended up dominating the other one, and the conflict got out of pocket, and she had to put him out of the house, right? And so here's the thing. Here's my point in all this and why I'm bringing this up. First of all, I think that he's a guy who's probably gone through some trauma. He seemed very, he seems angry. But also he seems a little spoiled and entitled. A lot of athletes like that. He was probably identified as a superstar at the age of 10 or 11. And when that happens, the little boys, they kind of make them feel like they can do whatever they want. So I think with Antonio, you're seeing some of what I've seen for years. I've watched athletes for years. I used to, tutor athletes at the University of Kentucky, and they do something different with black male athletes who are exceptional. You ain't got to really do your homework. You ain't got to really do nothing. You can get away with a lot because you're a good athlete. So that's the first thing, one thing I see. The other thing I see, again, is just the trauma and the anger that probably comes from the fact that he was never raised by his real father. Antonio's father should have been the one who's disciplining him. When you bring another man around and that man is supposed to control your teenage son, and he doesn't have the right to do what is necessary to establish control in that situation, what's gonna probably happen is that somebody's gonna leave. Either your man's gonna leave or your son is going to leave, and it's gonna be a problem. The only man, I believe, given the type of person Antonio Brown is, the only man who could control Antonio Brown is his biological father. There are things that only your biological father can do with you, especially if you're talking about bringing a stepdad in when your son is 12, 13 years old. It's just a mess, And so when I read about this, I thought this was really interesting. And they talked about a lot of other things Antonio's been accused of over the years, a lot of things he's been sued for. Do I think he did these things to this woman? I don't really know, but I'm gonna just say this. None of this would surprise me, because this man's been accused by a lot of people of doing a lot of stuff that was just kind of reckless, disrespectful, entitled. And that's what I got from his dad. I think his dad just kind of felt, his stepfather was just kind of like, I was just sick of his shit. Like, he was out of control. He's a damn fucking fool, and I just felt bad for the father a little bit. Not because I think that he's a perfect man, but because, I tell you guys right now, I tell them all the time, if you date or marry a woman and she has a son that's above the age of 10, if she can't control that son, if that son's not well-behaved and disciplined and a decent person, do not move into that house, because he's going to push you against the wall to the point where you're either going to have to submit and let him get away with whatever he wants, or he might get knocked the fuck out. And the problem with that is you do that, you go to jail for that. Because a real man's not going to let some other little fucking, 14-year-old kid run the household. Like, a real man is not going to do that. And so ultimately, I would just warn anybody, like, if you are a woman and you have a son, or you have kids in general, control your kids. And I just put myself out there and tell you the truth. Like, Alicia has children, and if her children were not decent children, I wouldn't be in that house, because I was raised in a old school kind of setting. My father ran that house. He was the king of the house. My mother was the queen. We didn't have kids, cussing parents out, talking back, acting a fool, doing whatever the hell they wanted. So if I came in that house and her kids were doing that, or her son was being just blatantly disrespectful, it would have become a physical confrontation. It would have been a serious problem, and somebody would either go to jail, or I probably would have just been like, you know what, I shouldn't be here. You've already got a man of your house. You've already got a husband. So you and your husband enjoy your life together. And if you want to go on a date or something, you can call me, but I'm not going to live in this house. You don't ask a man to live in a house where he has to submit to a little boy. So ultimately what I find though also is the mother's support and the disciplining of the child makes a big difference. So I think the worst nightmare in the world, and this is just also for the guys, is if you date a woman who has an out of control kid and she don't want to discipline him and she don't want to back your authority. If she does not back your authority and she will not discipline her own damn kids, do not move into that house, because it will be a complete disaster for you if you are a disciplinarian. A big part of the reason that I can discipline Alicia's kids is because she backs me on everything. we are a team on everything. We are in lockstep on everything. She will never say to me, Boyce, no, we can't tell them not to do it. No, she'll take me to the back room and say, come on, Boyce, why don't we try it this way, or whatever. But she'll never, in front of the children, let them know that we're not in unity, like we're not completely in sync on everything. You have to have a disciplined front. So when Antonio Brown, I'm sitting there thinking, man, you got this damn hyper masculine, entitled superstar athlete who knows he's going to the NFL at the age of 12, who thinks he's entitled to everything, who is, full of testosterone and, all this other stuff. It's, you're going to run into these crazy situations that no man wants to deal with. And I'm just happy that nobody got killed. Because if he ran into the wrong kind of guy, he could end up dead. Like a man will kill your son. If he's like like this guy was a dope dealer or whatever, and if Antonio got too out of pocket, like he would have killed her son. Like it happens. These things happen all the time. So ultimately, I think, with the Antonio thing, when I read that story about his upbringing, it really helped me understand a lot about what was going on. My heart goes out for all of them. It really does. My heart really goes out for the whole community, because for whatever reason, white people took away your ability to keep your family together. How come we can't have a day again where, whoever you have a baby with, that's who you're with? Because a son, daughters and sons need their fathers. And there are things that a biological father can do for a child that nobody can replace. Just like a biological mother can't be replaced. You can get the best babysitter in the world, but it ain't your mama. So same thing is true with the father. You can get the best male role models around, but that ain't the dad. The man to discipline Antonio Brown should have been Eddie Brown. Now I'm trying to figure out what happened with Eddie Brown, his daddy. Eddie Brown was, had the same genes as Antonio. He was a great, big, strong man like Antonio. He could probably have dominated him and gotten him to submit and listen to him. Like there's things that a father can do because he's there with the child since he's very little, where he could, like even with my little brother, my brother would never buck up on me like my baby brother, because I was there from the time he was born. I changed his diapers. I loved him since he was a child. It would take a lot for him to ever decide to become physical with me. He would be physical with everybody else before he ever got physical with me, and that's because we have that kind of connection. So I think that you can't underestimate the importance of the biological father. So when you pick a father for your kids, when you pick the man you want to sleep with, I don't know, think it through. Be a little more careful. Read a book on relationships. Learn how to maintain a relationship. Read a book on co-parenting so you can keep the father involved. In fact, actually, I don't know if you guys know, but they're eventually going to label it as abuse if you alienate the father from the children. So like if you think your child's father ain't shit and you're talking shit about the child's father when the kids are around, that's called parental alienation. And actually they're about to label that as a form of child abuse, that you're taking your child's father away from them because you have your own issues with the dad and you can't do that anymore. That's incredibly unhealthy. That's as bad as your man beating your kids or abusing them some other way, like literally. So ultimately what I would just say is, if you ask my opinion and you haven't had kids yet or you're young or whatever, like think carefully about who you sleep with. Think carefully about who you have kids with. There's books out here on how to raise kids right. There's books out here on how to keep your relationship tight. Do all of these things so that you don't end up, I don't know, just hemmed up in a dumb situation. That's my point. Because I'm gonna tell you, a smart man, most smart men I know will not have a serious relationship with a woman who has an out-of-pocket teenager in the house, especially if it's a boy, and he doesn't get any backing on authority. Like I can even tell you, as much as I love Alicia, and I love the hell out of Alicia, but if her kids are out of control and she did not back me up, I'd be like, nope, I'm not gonna do it because it's gonna be a conflict. I'm gonna end up hurting somebody because you're not gonna be up in my house acting a damn fool. You're not gonna be in my house disrespecting me. Like I will get in this dude's face and we will have a problem. So you need to go talk to him before I go talk to him. Because if I talk to him, we might not be talking for too long, right? And the great thing about it is she got that, she understood that, and it makes it easier. So now it's like, okay, I can just kick back and I know that everything's gonna be okay, and I can just sort of support her in her role as, as the primary hereditary connector of, with those kids, because I'm not their father. I know that, right? A stepfather can never be the actual father, right? And so ultimately, raising kids is a team sport. That means that if you have a biological father, then it's a partnership between the biological father, the mother, the stepmother, and the stepfather. Like, they all work together, try to get on the same page. Sometimes it's hard, but you try. And if everybody's mature, then the kids will know that there's a unified front in how they're being raised. And that's what kids want. Kids want structure. When kids don't have structure, I think that's when they act out of control, because they see an imbalance and they see something that doesn't make them comfortable. So next thing you know, your kid's out here acting an ass. And so, I think with Antonio Brown, I think that's what I saw. I just saw a lack of structure. I saw chaos. I saw, things that a child should not have to deal with. And so I really feel bad for the poor guy, because I feel like, he didn't have to be this man. I think he's probably hurting on the inside. But at the same time, he's going to really be hurting when they take him off the football field and take all that money. So he better perform this year. If he ain't scoring touchdown after touchdown, this might be the last year you see him playing in the NFL. I just believe that. So anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I go live. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Many stepfathers outshine deadbeat sperm donors. That's true, but you're still not the father. Stop thinking you're the father. You're not the father. The father is the father. So when you're the father, you have an incumbency. Protect your role. Don't give it away voluntarily. But then again, sometimes things just happen, and if you partner with somebody that ain't got no damn sense, then shit falls apart and ain't nothing you can do about it sometimes. I mean, it really kind of sucks. Child support sucks. All that sucks. I'm just telling you, because I went through it. I paid child support for 18 years and I did not enjoy it. And I remember being very frustrated because there were things I wanted to do that I could not do, And so after that one experience, I said to myself, I'm never doing this again. If I have another child with a woman, I better be married to her. If I'm not married to her, I'm not going to do it. Because at the end of the day, it's being a father is tough. I saw Sherry Shepherd complain about how hard it is to pay child support and all that. And I was like, yeah, good. I'm glad you wrote that article, because a lot of brothers are going through the same damn thing. So anyway, hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I go live. I got to run. I got to go find out where my luggage is. Hit the notification bell, and then that way you'll know when I go live. And also, I'll be in Louisville speaking tomorrow. DrBoyceLouisville.com is where you can go if you want to get a pass and come out. It's not free, but it's a lot of good people to network with. So DrBoyceLouisville.com. All Black National Conventions on the 27th, that weekend. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Last but not least is DrBoyceNewYork.com. I'll be in New York next month. So see you guys soon. Take care. Peace.